If you want to find more meaningful measures or KPIs for your goals, these 5 steps from PuMP's measure design technique is the tool you need. How to find the right measures or KPIs is the most asked question in the field of performance measurement, but most people really struggle to find the answer to that question. So I'm going to offer you my answer, which is a 5-step technique from the PuMP methodology, and it will guide you in exactly how to design the right KPIs or performance measures for any goal. But before we start, we really need to talk about goals. It's not easy to translate intangible goals like employee morale or digital transformation or diversity and inclusion into solid, robust measures. And you won't be able to until you can articulate your goal in measurable language. That often means translating the weasel words like transformation and diversity and inclusion into plain language that makes it clear enough to be observed or detected in the real world. If it can't be observed or detected in the real world, we just can't measure it. Measurement is based on evidence, and if you don't know the evidence of your result or goal or outcome, how can you ever recognize if and when it's happening? Of course you can't. Now, in the description under this video, I have a link to a set of tests that will help you make sure that the result that you want to measure is measurable. And if it passes these tests, you're ready for this PuMP technique to find the right KPIs. So these are the 5 steps of PuMP's measure design. Step 1 is called begin with the end in mind. Performance measures give us objective and quantitative evidence of an important performance outcome or result that we want to achieve or to improve. And as our first step in deciding how to measure a result, we write down what the result is so it stays in the spotlight while we work through the measure design steps, and we focus on one result at a time. Step 2 is to list the sensory specific evidence. When we have the end in mind, we're ready to get a handle on what specifically about our result we will measure. This is where we take care in our choice of words to describe the evidence of that result. And we describe that evidence as tangibly as possible. It's critical to avoid those inert weasel words that we so often see in our goal or objective statements. And you know the words that I mean: accountable, capacity, diverse, efficient, effective, fit for purpose, reliable, sustainable, transformation, and the like. Being tangible means using sensory language to describe the evidence. It's the language that describes what we and others would see and hear and feel, do, taste or smell if our result was happening now. Step 3 is called what are the potential measures. Now we get ultra specific and figure out what the potential measures are that could let us and everyone else know that our result's being achieved. For each piece of sensory evidence from step 2, we ask, what could we count or quantify to tell us the extent to which that's occurring? So each potential measure needs to be written clearly and quantitatively with a 4-step recipe, which I link to in the video description below. Now, when we have a list of potential measures complete, we test which of them would be the optimal balance between relevance to our goal and feasibility to implement. Now, step 4 is to check the bigger picture. Before we finalize our decision about the measures to run with, we check the bigger picture for what could happen if we use those measures. What level of control or influence do we have over using them to reach our goal? What might be the unintended consequences of measuring the result, both positive and negative unintended consequences? And what behavior would the measures drive? Which other areas of performance might be sabotaged or limited if we use this measure to improve performance? Now, this is a great chance to change our mind about any measures that just might not be worth the risk. Step 5 is to name and describe the measure. Naming our performance measures or KPIs marks the point at which we know exactly what we will be measuring. So being succinct and informative and deliberate in how we name and describe each measure, it matters a lot. So no one jumps to the wrong conclusion about what's to be measured or how. Now the name should be 3 to 5 words and unique to this measure. You don't want 2 different measures with the same name, obviously. And the description is simply about putting into words how the measure is quantified or calculated. Now remember that this is just one technique in the entire process of selecting and implementing and using KPIs or performance measures. In the full PuMP methodology, we have 8 steps that we follow, and we've just explored step 3. Now you can start experimenting with this PuMP measure design technique using the link in the description below the video. And if you want to continue on to mastering measure design as a proper part of performance measurement, then you can also find links for how to learn PuMP.